Racing to the 2022 Kentucky Derby. Welcome back to the channel, and we take a look at some more handicapping factors on the Kentucky Derby. We recently took a look at the fastest speed figures for 2022. You can watch that at the link above. But this time around, we're going to take a look at the pace of the race. And many times you'll hear the whole racing slogan, pace makes the race. And what people mean by that is how fast they go early and how contested that pace is early. That can determine the final speed of the race, the final speed figures that we talked about, and overall who can win that race. We're going to take a look at a couple of pace ratings in this edition of the handicapping factors, the Timeform pace ratings and the Brisnet pace ratings, both their front end pace ratings and their late pace ratings that a lot of handicappers use to try to distinguish horses that can maybe finish off that final 3/8 of a mile and go into that first 10 furlong race of their career. So pace is how fast they run early, how fast they run late, and overall it's kind of an analysis on how the race will be run, and how you think it'll be run may determine the winner. Now, Timeform puts a look at their pace ratings both at the quarter mile, the half mile, and the 3/4 mile. And I want to take a look at the 3/4 mile, which is 6 furlongs when you're looking at the past performances, and the races that have the fastest 6 furlong pace rating, with the pace rating be the strongest point in the race. That was the Florida Derby, the Sunland Derby, and the Arkansas Derby. So Simplification was running a very strong pace that day when he was dueling with Papa Cap. And that kind of set it up for some of the closers. Meanwhile, in the Sunland Derby, there just wasn't enough class to close into that race. The top 2 horses were just that much better. But in a normal race, if there would have been some strong closers, Slow Down Andy and Bye Bye Bobby probably wouldn't have been around at the finish line. And the Arkansas Derby, that one was very contested in that opening quarter mile. Lots of movement between 2 or 3 horses. Horses like Secret Oath got shuffled back, and a horse like We the People, who was 5 wide early, never really got a chance to run in that Arkansas Derby. So Cyberknife was able to contest. He was making a move in between horses at that 6 furlong mark. Now, Brisnet also takes a look at the pace profile, and they have a variant for how fast early it was above par. So a negative number means that it was slower below par, and a positive number means it was faster than par. So Brisnet shows the fastest early for Simplification. They show the Florida Derby being fast, 18 points at the 6 furlong call, and then early voting also fast on that first half mile pole, and then Slow Down Andy. So, but for early voting, that was in the Wither Stakes. They show that very fast pace rating. So the Wither Stakes was a fast early pace, and early voting was out there running it down. And we'll see again, early voting in that Wood Memorial was able to combine that with a strong late pace rating off the 2-month layoff. Overall, the fastest late pace ratings by Brisnet, the Remsen and particularly Donegal and Zandon own the top 4 fastest late pace ratings on the Brisnet scale. Donegal came motoring home in a sub-24 quarter in the Wood Memorial. He had a 121 late pace rating on the Brisnet scale. He also had a 117 late pace rating in the Remsen Stakes. Zandon came home fast in the Remsen as well, a 116. And then his late pace rating in the Bluegrass was a 114. And then even though Donegal ran a 121 late pace, early voting actually was just collared in by a strong finish by Donegal. If Donegal went to ran that fast sub-final quarter, early voting very well may have won the Wood Memorial, and it kind of would have changed the complexion of the odds on the Kentucky Derby. I think a lot more people would like early voting. A few less people would like Donegal. So you may want to reevaluate early voting's late pace in the context that it was his first time going 1 1/8 off a 2-month layoff. He had ran 1 1/8 in only a second lifetime start. So early voting has kind of accomplished some unique pace profiles, even though it only has 3 career starts. Charge It came home fast in his maiden special weight, and then Epicenter with a slow final late pace, but that was also done off a slow early pace, and it's very hard to run a fast late pace when you're running slow early, and Epicenter did that in the Louisiana Derby. So lots to look at in the context of those races. Meanwhile, I wanted to show you how I evaluate where the race is run and how that pace translates into the race flow. Now, Epicenter in the Fairgrounds Louisiana Derby, he was able to, on the turn, really it was down to a 2-horse race, Zozos on the lead. Epicenter went out in the middle of the track, but if you noticed, there really wasn't a lot of pressure. He was able to get that on kind of a freewheeling pace, and there wasn't very contested going into that turn. Meanwhile, in the Wood Memorial, even though Mo Donegal came from behind, on the turn, he was actually within a couple of lengths of the leader. He really made a big move going into that turn, and he did it while saving a lot of ground. So he came into the stretch, was inside, and was able to save ground, and that allowed him to put that finishing kick and go outside late over early voting. If he would have lost any ground on that turn, you might have had a different winner of the Wood Memorial, and it probably would have been early voting. Now, overall, the fastest speed figures on the Brisnet scale for the final round of preps, it was Mo Donegal with a 111, Zandon with a 103, and then Tiz the Bomb a 101 in that Jeff Ruby Stakes on the synthetic, and that was another race that had a little bit of a fast pace in that race. Now we go to the Toyota Bluegrass. You've got Zandon, again, a sub-24 final quarter, but he was able to save ground, and he really got a nice ride from Flavian Prod. If he wouldn't have waited till the right time, he might have had a little bit of trip trouble. Smile Happy made his move coming into the turn. Normally that's the type of move that wins that race. He easily was able to overcome Emmanuel, the early lead, but if you noticed, even though that was a big field, a lot of those horses were spread out wide. And what usually happens in the Derby, coming into that turn, even though a lot of times it's a 20-horse field, really the only time that it impacts the start of the race is when you have 20 horses in that opening half mile. Usually by the time you get to the turn, you've down to 5 or 6 horses. So Zandon, again, was able to save ground and was able to corral in Smile Happy, but he did make a couple of moves. He did have to go outside a couple of horses, and that was a very strong race from Zandon in only his 4th lifetime start. Now, Taiba, in his 2nd lifetime start, one of the problems I always look at with these small fields out west at Santa Anita is that they get these dream trips, and they mainly become kind of workout races. Again, Taiba, he ran a little bit wide, but he got the race flow to come just outside Messier, who basically inherited the lead on the turn when Forbidden Kingdom just stopped. So Messier was able to take the lead with no pressure, and then Taiba ran him down, and he did run a final 1/8 of a mile in just over 12 seconds, which is very impressive, stretching out from 6 furlongs to 9 furlongs. But again, what I'm looking for is normally that race in the Kentucky Derby is won going into that turn, and by that time you're usually down to 5 or 6 contenders that can really win that Derby. So a lot of times that 20-horse field really only makes an impact in that first half mile. Now, I do think the pace made the race in the Sunland Derby, but there was nobody able to take advantage on the closing end. So Slow Down Andy probably won't get that good of a race flow again. The Jeff Ruby Stakes, that was synthetic, but Tiz the Bomb did come home while running wide. I do think that was a better than looked effort, and some people may overlook that. The Arkansas Derby was a little bit faster pace than I think people realize, and I like the fact that Cyberknife was able to be in between horses, and he kind of had to rush up early while going up in class. He's another one who has 6 starts, but he took a couple of races to break his maiden. He didn't break his maiden until his 3rd start, so he does have some experience. And then, you know, really what you're looking for is the 5 horses on the turn that have a chance to win that Kentucky Derby. So pace will make the race. Fastest late pace figures were Zandon and Mo Donegal in the Remsen and the Bluegrass Stakes and the Wood Memorial. And the fastest early speed figures were run by Sunland Derby, but nobody was able to take advantage. Florida Derby, simplification. Take a look at him. We've got a lot more to handicap, but just some of the pace of the race may favor overall. I have a feeling it could be a little bit on the slow side, and it could favor those horses that are able to get position on the turn, mainly horses like Epicenter, Zandon, and possibly Taiba and Messier, depending on if they can establish that early position in the 2022 Kentucky Derby. What kind of pace do you see? Leave a comment, and remember, watch that video on the top speed figures at the link above as we get you ready for the first Saturday in May.